There's something quietly magnetic about a woman who knows her limits. She doesn't shout for attention, nor does she bend to expectation. She simply moves through the world with a sense of self-possession that both intrigues and unsettles. Boundaries are often misunderstood as walls, but in reality they are signals of value, of inner clarity. When she says no, it is not rejection, it is a statement of identity. And strangely, it is this very clarity that pulls others closer. Men, in particular, respond to her restraint not with frustration, but with fascination. They notice her absence, respect her space, and begin to invest in ways they might never have before. There is a quiet obsession that grows, not out of desire to control, but out of desire to understand, to connect, and to meet the strength she embodies. It is the paradox of freedom. The more she protects herself, the more deeply she is sought. Mystery through independence is one of the most subtle, yet powerful forces in human attraction, and it is magnified when a woman sets clear boundaries. Independence is often misunderstood as detachment, aloofness, or even disinterest, but in reality, it is a demonstration of self-possession. When a woman maintains her own life, her own priorities, and her own sense of purpose, she creates an aura of autonomy that naturally sparks curiosity. Men are wired in many ways to pay attention to what is not entirely available to them, not as a form of manipulation, but as an instinctive pull toward challenge, discovery, and meaning. The independent woman does not force this attraction. She simply exists fully, and the boundaries she sets draw attention because they mark a distinct line between what is hers and what is negotiable. Independence establishes a rhythm of presence and absence. A woman who is constantly available leaves little room for intrigue. Her life becomes predictable, and her actions easy to anticipate. In contrast, a woman who prioritizes her time, energy, and personal goals naturally introduces space into interactions. This space is not emptiness. It is a canvas for observation, reflection, and curiosity. Men notice what she chooses to protect, and in doing so, they begin to value not just her time, but her essence. They start to wonder about her thoughts, her routines, and the experiences that define her. Mystery, in this context, is not about secrecy or manipulation. It is about demonstrating that one's life is rich, complete, and not contingent on external validation. The independence she embodies also shifts the dynamic of pursuit. When boundaries are set clearly, the chase transforms from a desire to dominate or possess into a desire to engage meaningfully. Men no longer take access for granted. They must observe, learn, and adapt. Each interaction becomes layered with intention. The curiosity sparked by her independence encourages introspection. Why am I drawn to her? What makes her different from anyone else? This reflection deepens emotional engagement. The attraction that arises is no longer superficial or transactional. It becomes invested in understanding, respecting, and even aligning with her sense of self. Independence also communicates strength, which inherently commands attention. It signals that she is not afraid of solitude, that she does not rely on validation, and that she can thrive without approval. This strength is magnetic because it introduces a paradox. She is both self-sufficient and approachable, assertive, yet relatable. Men who are genuinely intrigued do not see her boundaries as obstacles. They see them as guides, a map to navigate the depths of her individuality. They begin to value not just her presence, but the integrity of her choices. Independence, therefore, becomes a form of empowerment that amplifies attraction because it frames connection as a privilege rather than a given. Another dimension of mystery through independence is the encouragement of patience and emotional investment. When a woman maintains her autonomy, men are compelled to engage thoughtfully. They cannot rely solely on charm, manipulation, or persistence. They must demonstrate understanding, respect, and consistency. This process naturally deepens the bond. The pursuit becomes an exploration of character, values, and compatibility, rather than a superficial race for attention or conquest. Independence, in this sense, creates a higher standard of interaction. Men who are drawn to her are not simply infatuated. They are challenged to align their actions with her principles, fostering a connection that is richer, more deliberate, and more enduring. Finally, mystery through independence creates a sense of reverence. It teaches that attraction is not about entitlement, but about appreciation. Her life exists with boundaries, priorities, and ambitions, and this clarity compels others to observe, respect, and invest consciously. The independent woman becomes a mirror, reflecting not just who she is, but who the other person must become to engage meaningfully. Her mystery is not a puzzle to solve. It is a living presence that invites curiosity, admiration, and sustained attention. Through independence, she transforms ordinary interaction into a deeper, more intentional experience. Respect fuels desire in a way that is subtle yet undeniable. When a woman sets clear boundaries, she communicates a sense of self-worth and personal integrity. She demonstrates that she will not compromise her values, her time, or her emotional well-being for someone else's convenience or ego. This kind of firmness is magnetic because it flips the usual dynamic of pursuit. Rather than chasing what is freely given, a man is drawn to what is respected and earned. Boundaries show that she is not available for manipulation or entitlement, which creates a deeper, more meaningful form of attraction. Respect in this sense becomes the currency of desire. When a woman commands respect through her actions and limits, it triggers curiosity and admiration. Men are instinctively drawn to what cannot be taken for granted. They begin to notice the details of her behavior, her thought patterns, and the principles she upholds. This is not about creating artificial scarcity, but about demonstrating authenticity. She communicates through her boundaries that her attention and affection have value, and that value, when acknowledged, ignites interest that is rooted in understanding rather than impulse. This respect also fosters emotional investment. A man who wishes to connect with her must engage thoughtfully, learning to navigate her boundaries with care. Each act of consideration deepens his focus, as he realizes that connection cannot be achieved through coercion or entitlement. The very effort required to honor her limits encourages reflection, patience, and attentiveness, qualities that amplify attraction far beyond initial physical or superficial appeal. Desire grows not out of conquest, but from the appreciation of her autonomy and strength. Moreover, respect reinforces mutual understanding in the relationship dynamic. When a woman enforces her boundaries consistently, it communicates clarity and honesty. She is not testing or playing games, she is simply maintaining the integrity of her life and values. This transparency fosters admiration because it signals reliability and predictability in her character. Men respond to this by internalizing a sense of reverence for her choices, realizing that meaningful connection requires conscious effort and alignment with her principles. Ultimately, respect fuels desire because it shifts attraction from entitlement to appreciation, from chasing to understanding. A woman who sets boundaries does not diminish connection, she elevates it. Her limits act as a framework that invites engagement on a deeper, more intentional level. Men are drawn not just to her presence, but to the strength, authenticity, and value that those boundaries represent. By commanding respect, she cultivates a form of fascination that is enduring, profound, and deeply rooted in the recognition of her worth. Scarcity and value are closely intertwined when it comes to attraction, and a woman who sets boundaries naturally creates both. When she limits availability not out of manipulation but as a reflectio of her priorities and self-respect, she signals that her time, energy, and attention are not commodities to be taken for granted. This is different from playing games or creating artificial barriers. It is an honest demonstration of personal worth. By defining what is acceptable and what is not, she communicates that engaging with her requires intention, thoughtfulness, and respect. This scarcity, rooted in authenticity, transforms ordinary interactions into meaningful opportunities, making connection feel significant rather than routine. When a man encounters a woman who is not always immediately accessible, he is prompted to invest mentally and emotionally. Scarcity naturally focuses attention because she cannot be taken for granted. Each interaction carries more weight. He begins to notice subtleties, the tone of her voice, the way she listens, the choices she makes. Her value is communicated not through boastfulness, but through the consistent demonstration of boundaries and principles. Scarcity creates a sense of anticipation, and anticipation amplifies engagement. Limiting availability also elevates the quality of connection. When a woman prioritizes her life, goals, and personal space, she ensures that the interactions she does allow are meaningful and intentional. Men drawn to her learn that access is not automatic, and this fosters patience, reflection, and greater emotional investment. It encourages him to approach with thoughtfulness rather than entitlement. Scarcity transforms pursuit into a deliberate practice. He engages with her not because he can, but because he chooses to and values the effort. Scarcity and value also reinforce the perception of uniqueness. When a woman does not make herself constantly available, she stands apart from those who compromise themselves for attention. Her presence becomes significant, not merely because of physical proximity, but because of the intentionality that surrounds it. Men are naturally drawn to what is rare, and in this case, rarity is not superficial. It is the embodiment of self-respect, autonomy, and purpose. This combination of scarcity and value deepens attraction, creating fascination that goes beyond appearance or charm. Ultimately, scarcity and value operate together to make connection meaningful rather than transactional. By maintaining her independence, prioritizing herself, and clearly defining boundaries, a woman communicates that her attention is precious and not to be taken lightly. Men respond not with frustration but with focus, admiration, and heightened interest. Her scarcity is a reflection of worth, and that worth, when recognized, amplifies obsession in the most authentic sense, rooted in respect, curiosity, and the desire to understand and honor her fully. Challenge versus chase is a dynamic that emerges naturally when a woman sets clear boundaries, and it profoundly shapes male attraction. When a woman demonstrates that she is not easily swayed by entitlement, demands, or impulsive pursuit, she introduces a subtle tension into the interaction. Men are accustomed, in many cases, to being able to take access or attention for granted. Boundaries disrupt this expectation. They present a challenge, not a provocation, but an invitation to engage thoughtfully, to earn connection through respect and understanding rather than through force or persistence. This Enga triggers a deeper kind of focus, one rooted in curiosity and admiration. The chase, by contrast, is often superficial, driven by impulse or the thrill of pursuit without regard for the other person's autonomy. It can be fleeting and hollow, collapsing once access is granted. A challenge, however, is different because it is framed by integrity. It communicates that the woman's time, attention, and emotional energy are valuable and non-negotiable. Men drawn to her learn that meaningful engagement requires patience, observation, and effort. The process of meeting her boundaries becomes a form of investment, creating a fascination that is deeper and more enduring than casual infatuation. This dynamic also encourages reflection. A man facing a challenge must examine his intentions, motivations, and behavior. He begins to ask questions like, am I pursuing her for the right reasons? Am I prepared to meet her standards of respect and integrity? In this way, her boundaries function as both guideposts and tests, not designed to manipulate but to foster meaningful interaction. The challenge she presents is not a barrier but a filter that ensures the connection is genuine and that those who engage with her do so with awareness and sincerity. Challenge versus chase also heightens emotional engagement. When a man must navigate limits thoughtfully, he cannot rely on superficial charm or coercion. He must pay attention, listen deeply, and understand her values. Each interaction carries significance, and the process itself becomes meaningful. Over time, this fosters emotional investment because he experiences the connection as something earned rather than granted. The tension created by the challenge is compelling, creating anticipation, curiosity, and admiration simultaneously. Ultimately, challenge versus chase reframes attraction from entitlement to respect, from impulsive pursuit to deliberate engagement. A woman who sets boundaries does not repel, she elevates. She turns connection into an intentional, thoughtful process that strengthens fascination, cultivates emotional investment, and encourages men to align their actions with her values. In doing so, she transforms ordinary attention into a deeper, more meaningful obsession. Confidence amplifies attraction in a way that is subtle, magnetic, and enduring. When a woman sets boundaries, she demonstrates that she is comfortable in her own skin, that she values herself, and that she will not compromise her principles for approval or attention. Confidence is not arrogance, it is quiet, grounded, and consistent. Men are drawn to it because it signals strength, stability, and authenticity. A woman who knows her worth does not need to beg for validation or justify her choices. Her certainty about who she is and what she will accept communicates a clarity that is both rare and compelling, creating fascination without effort. Boundaries are an extension of this confidence. They show that she understands her limits and has the courage to uphold them, even when pressure is applied. This unwavering self-assurance transforms ordinary interactions into moments of intrigue. Men notice not just what she does, but how she does it, with calm authority and composure. Confidence signals that she is not available for casual entitlement. Her attention is something meaningful, something to be earned through respect and understanding. This dynamic naturally intensifies curiosity and emotional investment. The confidence she exhibits also reshapes the perception of challenge. Men are drawn not to resistance as an obstacle but to it as a reflection of strength. Her self-assuredness communicates that she cannot be easily swayed by charm, coercion, or manipulation. This creates a tension that is compelling. He wants to engage, to connect, but he must do so in a manner that honors her values and boundaries. The more he observes her confidence, the more he is inspired to match it, cultivating admiration and deeper emotional engagement in the process. Confidence also enhances emotional security, both for herself and for the men who respect her boundaries. She does not project neediness, insecurity, or dependency, which allows interactions to unfold without the chaos of uncertainty. This stability is magnetic because it shifts the dynamic from anxiety drive and pursuit to intentional, thoughtful connection. Men respond to this calm certainty by investing more deeply because they sense that their efforts will be recognized in a meaningful, authentic way. Ultimately, confidence amplifies attraction by transforming the way connection is experienced. A woman who sets boundaries and embodies self-assurance does not demand obsession, she invites it. Her confidence signals worth, integrity, and authenticity, creating a magnetic pull that encourages attention, respect, and emotional investment. It turns casual interest into deliberate focus, curiosity into admiration, and fleeting attraction into a deeper fascination that lingers and grows over time. Psychological investment is one of the most profound effects a woman can trigger when she sets clear boundaries. When a man encounters limits that are consistently upheld, he cannot rely on entitlement or assumption to maintain connection. Instead, he must pay attention, reflect, and engage intentionally. Every interaction becomes meaningful because it requires thought, patience, and effort. This process naturally deepens emotional involvement, turning surface-level attraction into a more substantial focus that occupies both attention and energy. When someone invests psychologically, they begin to care not just about presence or physical connection, but about understanding, respecting, and aligning with the woman's values and needs. Boundaries function as a guide for this investment. They communicate what is acceptable, what is valued, and what requires respect. Men who genuinely wish to connect are compelled to notice these limits and consider how their actions and behavior affect her. They begin to analyze their own motives and adjust their approach, reflecting a deeper level of engagement than casual interest or fleeting desire could produce. This attention and effort create a cycle. The more he invests psychologically, the more invested he becomes emotionally, and the more meaningful the connection grows. Psychological investment also fosters empathy and understanding. When a man must navigate her boundaries thoughtfully, he cannot act purely on impulse. He must interpret signals, honor limits, and respond with care. Over time, this practice encourages self-awareness and patience as he learns to anticipate needs, read subtle cues, and approach connection with intention rather than assumption. His focus shifts from the goal of possession to the process of understanding and respecting her, which deepens fascination and admiration. Another aspect of this dynamic is the creation of anticipation. Because access is not automatic, every interaction carries weight. When she does engage, he is more attentive, present, and conscious of her responses. He begins to value her presence in ways that go beyond physical or superficial attraction. Each encounter requires cognitive and emotional participation, which amplifies the sense of significance and connection. The attention he devotes grows cumulative, gradually weaving deeper obsession rooted in respect, understanding, and alignment rather than entitlement, or fleeting desire. Ultimately, psychological investment is the natural outcome of boundaries upheld with clarity and consistency. Men are drawn not just to the woman herself, but to the process of engaging with her on meaningful terms. Her limits invite focus, reflection, and effort, turning casual attention into deliberate emotional and mental investment. In doing so, she transforms connection into something profound, creating fascination that is layered, enduring, and rooted in respect, understanding, and genuine admiration. When we look at the way women who set boundaries affect male attraction, a clear pattern emerges. Boundaries do not push people away. They refine, focus, and deepen interest. By maintaining independence, commanding respect, establishing value through scarcity, presenting a challenge rather than a chase, exuding quiet confidence, and encouraging psychological investment, A woman transforms ordinary attention into meaningful obsession. She demonstrates that attraction is not about entitlement or access, but about curiosity, effort, and understanding. Each boundary she sets communicates strength, self-worth, and authenticity, inviting admiration and emotional engagement on a deeper level. In this way, setting limits does not diminish connection, it enhances it, creating fascination that is intentional, enduring, and profoundly magnetic. Her boundaries become the framework through which men learn to value, respect, and invest, turning ordinary interaction into a connection that lingers long after any moment has passed.